Today, let's talk about the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. This is a gas pipeline that goes straight from Russia into Germany. And so there is no potential conflict zone in between that could ever possibly disrupt the supply of hydrocarbons from Russia to Western Europe via Germany. And then, of course, that means there will be no disruption of euros flowing from Western Europe back into Russia in exchange for these hydrocarbons. So it would be a very lucrative deal for Russia, and it would greatly improve energy security for Western Europe. So imagine one's surprise when they read through an article like this one from Reuters titled Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline says has completed section in German waters. So this is over 90% complete. It's very close to completion. So imagine one's surprise when they see there's this threat of US sanctions, and not against Russia. Of course, the US is sanctioning Russia for this and everything else imaginable. But the US is also threatening European companies that are involved in this project, companies that are involved in building it, and of course, companies that once it's built will profit from it. It's not just Russia and Gazprom profiting from this project. Now, this is the paragraph right here that kind of touches on why the US is sanctioning European companies. It says the pipeline, which is estimated to cost 9.5 billion euros, will make Western Europe more dependent on Russian gas, and Washington says it'll compromise European energy security. Who is Washington to decide what does and doesn't compromise European energy security? Is Western Europe incapable of understanding or deciding for itself on the issue of European energy security? Now it's up to Washington to unilaterally decide and act on whether or not it perceives there's a energy security threat to Europe. It's just unbelievable when you read something like that in the year 2020, almost 2021, to see that in print. It's just amazing. And the US is planning more sanctions. This is not something that they've just been threatening. This is something that is being written into law right now in Washington. They fully intend to continue pressuring Western Europe over Nord Stream 2 pipeline. Now, there's another dimension to this because a lot of people following this story are kind of hoping that, well, this is under Trump. Maybe when Joe Biden becomes president, things will go a little bit smoother and this threat of sanctions hanging over Europe will be taken away. And that's extremely doubtful because let's remember, this pipeline is being built because of things like the crisis in Ukraine, which was precipitated under the Obama-Biden administration. That was in 2013 to 2014, that crisis. The government of Ukraine was overthrown. A regime handpicked by the US State Department was put into power. I think we all remember Victoria Nuland, who is now on the board of directors of the National Endowment for Democracy, funding sedition elsewhere around the world. And ever since then, the country has been a conflict zone. The flow of gas through Ukraine from Russia to the rest of Europe has been disrupted. And so common sense would tell you if you could possibly build a pipeline to Western Europe and bypass places like Ukraine or bypass other countries in between Russia and Western Europe that are vulnerable to US regime change and instability fomented by the US, that's what you would do. So that's why you have Nord Stream 2. This is why the US is trying to block it, because let's just say that this pipeline is completed, it goes online, Russia and Germany start profiting from it, the flow of hydrocarbons through this pipeline and through Germany to the rest of Western Europe begins. It'll be almost impossible for the US to disrupt it afterwards. If you just meet America's bluff and you just come up with a solution like Nord Stream 2, you can get around all their sanctions, all their threats, all their attempts to destabilize and destroy progress between countries. You can do that. And so you can understand the sense of desperation in Washington right now. And they know that under Biden, there's going to be a lot of things in the narrative that'll be easier to promote around the world, but then pressing Western Europe on something like this will be harder for Biden to do. But I bet that they will do it anyway, just because it's so essential to stop Nord Stream 2. So we have to keep an eye on this. If you knew nothing about Nord Stream 2 before, read this article. I'm going to put an article of my own in the video description below. Start reading about it, because as this nears completion, the US is surely going to try to do something to disrupt this. Just wait and see. This is something we really have to keep an eye on. This is going to be a flashpoint in the future for sure. So to my Patreon patrons who make these videos possible on a day-to-day basis, thank you so much. I hope you're enjoying them. Please keep the feedback coming. If you're watching this when I publish it publicly, please like and share it if you thought it was interesting. Think about subscribing to my channel, because it really helps the channel grow. It's totally free to do, and I greatly appreciate that. And to everyone who's helping me in absolutely every way, even if you're just liking and sharing my videos or putting, kind comments in the comment section, thank you very much. I couldn't do this without you. And as always, thank you for watching.